you'll see that it will actually end up glowing red hot. Hello guys, it is of course I, Trollface the Man, and today we're going to take a look at a cool tool or gadget that you likely have never seen before, unless maybe you work with auto body repair or such, which is this thing right here. What it does is it takes 110, 120 volts, or if you're in a different area, I imagine 220 or 240 volts, and steps it down to like 3 volts. And this is actually very important because that 3 volts then goes through this connector and through a thin piece of wire, which heats up because of its high resistance. Why would you want this? Well, the simple answer is to fix plastics. That is right, this is something that is designed specifically with plastic fixing in mind. And it's actually very awesome at that, if you don't mind your plastic looking like that it was stitched back up by Dr. Frankenstein. But if you've ever tried repairing plastics before, you know that most of the time things like glues, epoxies, even if you put mesh or whatever, they just don't work a lot of times on a lot of different types of plastics. But this actually creates a mechanical bond with this metal that it's incredibly strong. Since I bought this thing, and this is very cheap, I'll link it down below. I think it was only like 16 bucks or whatever for this gun, a whole bunch of different staples, razor knife, snips, and a carrying case. I've already used it for a ton of stuff so far. And this is one of the things we are going to use it on here today. This right here is a shelf that my friend had for a refrigerator in his RV. And as you can see, it is broken. It has been taped up. Actually, this is one of the only shelves that was still present in the RV because all the other ones had broken too. And looking to replace these shelves, weirdly enough, these shelves, because apparently they're so specialty, were like $27 each, which actually led me to design up some shelves for him and 3D print them as replacement parts when they only cost like $2 each to replace, and they actually feel a lot sturdier. But this one can be repaired. These imperfections actually are from the filament that I was using. It was a very cheap filament and not very good quality. But yes, we can fix this one though quite easily. This tape has been holding, but as you can see, it's definitely not what I would consider fixed. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull off this tape that was put on here. It just looks like some type of standard black duct tape. Nothing too strong or thick feeling like Gorilla Tape. Just, again, it feels like some type of standard tape. Basically left no residue. So, there's a couple of different types of staple shapes you can choose from. If you look at this chart here, they're designed for different things, such as inside corner, outside corner, and just standard sort of zigzag patterns for different types of repairs. But I think this is going to be pretty easy. So all you need to do with this is you take this and you insert one of the staples into the tip. And if I press and hold this for a little while, you'll see that it will actually end up glowing red hot. We don't actually want that. That's much too hot for the plastic welding. But when we actually do want to do the repair, all we need to do is we just need to press this, heat it up a little bit, insert it into the plastic a little ways, then give it about 5-10 seconds, and it should be cool enough just to pull it out like that. And as you can see, that has now been fused together. We can do this again. Just load up a new staple. Go ahead and heat it up. Press it in. Let it cool. It just slides right out. And this is already fused together. This is already strong. I'm not separating this joint. So it's actually working very well. I've used this so far to repair my one studio light that had fallen and cracked in several places. And I've also used it to repair a fridge shelf that we had that ended up breaking right on the joint. I also epoxied over top of that too afterwards just to give it a little bit extra strength, which is what I plan on doing with this too. But is that not cool? Anyone that's had experience with trying to fix plastics can know just how infuriating it can be to try and get them to stay back together. This is why I say you look like you're sewed up by Dr. Frankenstein. Well, the shelf looks like it's sewed up by Dr. Frankenstein. My one friend actually feels uneasy staring at these repairs for that reason, which I find kind of humorous. There's also a crack that's starting to form right here. You should be able to just take this and stop that from going anywhere else. Now the reason why that the 3-volt output is important is because if I turn this on and I touch this, you can see I'm not getting shocked or electrocuted. Technically, something like this could run off 120 volts just as well as it could off of 3 volts, but the fact that it's only 3 volts means that I won't get shocked even when the trigger is depressed. Now you have this ugly fix. That's, again though, incredibly strong. I'm trying to separate it, it's not separating. But there's these little tabs that are sticking up, which you can do either two things. Supposedly you can just wiggle them back and forward to break them, or they actually do come with these clippers that you'll want to hold this, the piece of metal, making sure your fingers aren't in the way, and then clip it. Now you might ask why you hold it. The reason being is because if you clip it without holding it, these things will launch off like little rockets when they finally do cut. Oh, actually that worked out pretty good, just bending that one. Let's see if it does it well with the other one too. Just, oh hey, look at that. That actually works beautifully. I was a skeptic, but I guess I shouldn't have been. Nice. Ah, yes. Isn't that just beautifully horrifying? But like I said, it's strong. I can't crunch it in anymore like I was before. Oh, by the way, these 3D printed shelves, the funny thing about this is that I did design them a little bit different, so they're a little bit taller and a little bit thicker, but they actually are much sturdier than these original shelves that the thing came with. They are very, very quality for, again, only costing about $2 to print with a cheap filament. So now we have this. It's kind of unsightly. And though I have every bit of faith that this will hold up perfectly fine with just these plastic staples, I would want to, just for both aesthetic and also for some extra strength, go ahead and apply some epoxy over top of these to help clean it up and provide some extra support. You can see some of the staples coming right through on the other side here. Oh yeah, the specific kit that I bought actually did come with quite a few of these 400 grit sanding pads with fuzz on the back to be attached with Velcro, which is pretty nice inclusion. I'm going to use that to kind of sand up the surface to allow the epoxy to bite into more. I have some 30-minute epoxy that's almost out. I'm just going to go ahead and hopefully squirt it in this cup. There we go. Sorry you don't get to see me squirt my epoxy. I was slightly off camera. Okay, this is 30 minutes. What I'm hoping to do is take some of this aluminum oxide polish, which is, as you can see, very white, and use that as a colorant in here. And this absolutely does not need to be done. I'm just doing it because, well, I don't even know why. I'm just doing it. Again, the epoxy itself, though, should help add a little bit additional strength, and that's again why the pre-sanding process was important, to make sure that the epoxy bites well. I think the shelf is a little bit yellow with time. Maybe should have used just a little bit more aluminum oxide. I don't want to use too much, though. That's going to negatively affect the properties of the epoxy. It'd be nice to have Bondo on hand, because some Bondo would be almost perfect for this. That's what this is usually used for. It's like, again, auto body. You would use the plastic stapler to fix like a hanging bumper or something like that, and then use Bondo or something to cover up where the staples are, make them invisible. This ain't no Bondo. So this is the front of the shelf. Now that I've sanded down the epoxy a little bit, I spent about 10 minutes just kind of trying to sand this a little bit smooth, just because I think it will look better. I'm going to spray this front a white color. As my friend had mentioned, this looks really, really yellow. Yeah, I don't actually think it's the epoxy. I think when I had sanded the front of the shelf, it had a very yellowed plastic, and I think that yellow plastic particles got stuck on the face of the epoxy, because this is actually very white at first. I'm gonna start with a layer of primer, and what I'm going to use is I'm going to use filler primer, because it's going to help just kind of flatten out the surface a little bit. This is usually used for automotive. I would use white if we could have found it. However, it seems like that this only likes to come in like gray or black, so. Again, this is just gonna kinda flow and help seal the edges of the epoxy and help smooth out things a little bit. It's kind of windy. It's just blowing my primer away. Gonna put on a second coat just for good measure. All right, we got the layers of the gray primer on. Let's put some white primer on. This stupid thing, I hate spray cans so much. White. The white primer is dried enough that I can actually paint it. Remember, by the way, when you're painting something like this, you should totally do what I did, which is use Rust-Oleum as the first layer of primer, Krylon as the second layer, and then use this Glidden paint as the final layer. Just mix as many brands of paints as possible, because you know, that way they're less likely to fail. Yeah, I don't think it works that way, so hopefully this is all right. I am using a flat paint, and there is a very big reason for that, which is that flats will hide surface imperfections a lot better than glosses or semi-glosses. Because as soon as you have some type of shine, that shine highlights every imperfection. Well, there we have it. The epoxied, painted, fixed shelf. Also, of course, stapled. Is it perfect? No, of course not. Much like me, it is full of imperfections, and though it would have been possible to get it perfect, it's a shelf, and I'm not that concerned about it. The paint was fine, I guess. I mean, it definitely helped cover it up. The funny thing is that how this is supposed to be white paint and how gray it looks in comparison to the shelf there, but that's just how paints are a lot of times. It's amazing how slight shades can make such a difference. Well, anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video, I ask you please leave a like, you comment if you have anything you have to say, and if you subscribe, I would very much appreciate it if you haven't already. Thank you to my patrons who help support my channel and help me just fund videos and do cool things and buy things like this plastic welder to test. I thank you guys very much for watching, and bye. That is still pretty cool though, because fixing this just normally with epoxy would have been quite a challenge in keeping structural integrity.